with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
Signore, we implore you, you must finish your premier painting before your rival finishes his and earns the favor of a patron. Your easel is set, your brush is at the ready, the light is good, and your muses smile upon you. Why have you not begun your painting? The master sighed, and as he spoke, his brush tip danced through the air, dry as a bale of hay. Oh, my dear apprentices, you are incredibly astute, but as you can see by my palette, oh, woe unto me! I have run out of paints. The bazaar is so crowded today, there is no way to get the pigments I require. There is hardly space to stand square-shouldered on that path between the stalls, so how can I make my way past all the adoring fans and other market-goers? Oh, I fear this could be the end of me. The apprentices deferentially doffed their white caps, gave a look to each other, nodded, and set their master straight. Master, have no fear, we can still run in to get your supplies. You can count on us, we will be your agents in the bazaar. Just tell us where to go and we can get there before even your rivals know what it is they need. Just be ready to paint as we gather your subjects before you, to be made immortal on canvas. With a clap, the old painter beamed at the two. Molto bene, my young apprentices. Today, then, we shall paint.
Sound familiar to you? It didn't to me neither, but that is the story of Pigment, a game for 2 to 3 Renaissance painters, and tonight we're lucky enough to have on Michael Epstein, the creator mastermind behind that. Is that correct, Michael? Is that how you fit into it?
Yeah, so I'm the designer and director of copperfroggames, and we are on Kickstarter right now with Pigment.
Cool beans. Now, you said something about a cheesy Italian accent. Are you from Italy, or was that your cheesy Italian accent you were doing?
That was about as cheesy as it gets, yeah. Pigment takes place in Renaissance Europe. So we feature artists not only from Italy, but from France, from Flemish regions, from the Netherlands, from Spain even. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of all the best of Renaissance art, in my opinion.
Sorry, before we get too much further into that, let's rewind a little bit. How did you get into tabletop board gaming, Michael?
So I've been playing video games since I was in first grade, but as for tabletop, I only really started getting into it after high school. I started with Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, and from there kind of found the hobby game industry, almost by accident actually. And D&D was a great start for me because it really helped build up a lot of important things in my life. It made me friends, it made me creatively problem solving, and it was a really important part of my life, so I decided I want to give back. And that's how I got into making board games.
Cool. How did you stumble upon the board game industry accidentally?
So I have a friend named Erik who, back in high school, was into hobby games, but I hadn't seen him for a while because he was 2 years older than I was, so he went off to college. But then one summer, I had my driver's license, he did not. So I ended up taking him over to our friendly local game store here in Massachusetts, Pandimenium, and he picked up a game called Dominion, and that kind of changed everything for me. Between Dominion and one of his favorites, Betrayl and House on the Hill, I kind of discovered the Euro Renaissance that was going on. Renaissance being a figure of speech there. In America, and so from there I really got into the strategies behind games, and I love just looking at really cool, well-designed games and well-designed cards and well-designed mechanics with themes that I really like, and that's kind of how I stumbled into it.
Cool. So do you have a favorite theme and a favorite mechanic?
So my favorite mechanic right now is definitely worker placement, which really is what Pigment is. It's a worker placement game, but in half the time and a quarter of the price of most of the big games on the market right now, like Agricola or Lords of Waterdeep. Um, you can fit it in your pocket. You can play it in line at a convention. So I think that was one of the driving factors in making Pigment. As for theme, most of my games that I make at Copperfrog Games are art themed in some way, shape, or form. So Pigment is actually the second game I've attempted to kickstart. The first was called Tattoo, the Game of Ink, and it's a tattoo themed game where you're buying, placing, and scoring tattoo designs on your armboard to score points. But I'm also working on a game called Turf Tag, which is a graffiti game with a territory control mechanic. I'm working on Chiseled, which is a sculpture deck building deconstruction game. Um, yeah, so art is something that's important to me in my life, and thus I try to bring it into my games as a major theme.
So you do this full time then, or?
Heh, I wish. No, right now it's kind of a part-time thing, but I am also trying to make it a full-time thing, and I'm hoping that this Kickstarter will help me with that.
Well, that'd be good. Yeah, it looks like, I don't know, did you do a 30 day or 29 day, or how many days did you do on the kick?
30 days, so we're on day 5 right now.
Yeah, so you looks like you're doing pretty good. I don't know the percentage. I'm just a little late to do math, but $5,609 out of the 8,000 right now with 25 days to go.
Yeah, it's about 69, 70% somewhere in there.
Well, there you go. That's not too shabby, especially being the. So this is the first one. You said you attempted to have one on Kickstarter. It says this is the first one you created, or the first one you've had on Kickstarter.
Yeah, so I was working with gaming paper to kickstart the first one, Tattoo. That did not succeed for a variety of reasons, but I learned so much doing that, and I've applied all that to this Kickstarter, and I think this one's definitely going to make it.
Cool, cool. Yeah, it looks like it. I really hope so. So, talking to some of my fans and stuff, they said they wanted like the inside scoop of people who have done Kickstarters and what they've learned, what's been the hardest part. What can you tell us about the last one, and what did you learn that's going to make this one better?
Shipping is the enemy that you really have to overcome. The last game, we had designed it to use four 9 by 18 boards. Those get really heavy. So for even a $30 game with $12 shipping, no one will buy it. So in reducing the weight of the boards to basically thick cardstock, and um, that actually reduces not only the weight of the game but also the cost of the components. So the game itself will come back to Kickstarter sometime in the next year, most likely, with a MSRP of around $20, 25 maybe, and much cheaper shipping. So I think that will really help out. And that really is something that tabletop game designers have been struggling with, both the cost of shipping and the cost of cardboard are both on the rise. China recently closed down thousands of factories because of pollution. And so paper costs are currently on the rise in China for manufacturing.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, gray board has gone up 100% in the last year. And that's what you make game boxes out of.
Uh huh. Oh wow, so that makes it rough.
Yep.
So cool. Yeah. So with the shipping and stuff, that's the most difficult challenge you think?
I think it's something that a lot of people overlook until the last minute and don't really think about enough. How will you get these rewards that you're planning shipped out to backers for without cutting into your profits or the actual manufacturing cost of the game?
Yeah, I've heard of people eating a lot of money on shipping, like where they didn't even make, where they had to spend, they went into the red, I guess, I would say. So, how does somebody anticipate what it's going to cost to ship before they start?
Go to your post office, talk to them, talk about options for businesses, options for bulk shipping, the different options available in flat rate boxes. Make sure your game fits in a flat rate box. That's an important step. Just coming up with the best way to get your game there in one piece, but also not super heavy. So, like, Pigment is under £1 to ship.
Oh, wow.
So it means that I can use first class mailing, for instance, and that saves some money even while providing a nice durable package.
So how would play look if we were to sit down? Well, I guess they wouldn't be able to see it. So how would play sound if we sat down to play Pigment, me and you?
So at the start of a game of Pigment, every game looks basically the same. In a 2-player game, just the two of us, we would have 5 starting cards, ordered from 1 to 5, and then the deck would be placed to the right of the 5 card. These cards each have one stall effect on them, and they move away from the deck every round. So in the first round, every turn you're going to have 2 apprentice meeples, which we're working on getting made into custom meeples as a stretch goal. And we'll take turns placing one of our apprentices into the bazaar to access one of the stalls on a card. So for example, the 1 card gives you a red and a yellow pigment cube from the supply. The number 2 card gives you a red, number 3 gives you a yellow, number 4 gives you a blue, which is generally worth 2 red or yellow, and then number 5 is trade 2 of any color back to the supply to take a blue. So usually our first turn would be fighting over who gets the red and yellow or the blue, and that would be based on what paintings are currently out as subjects to paint. Each painting has a unique requirement and a unique effect when it's on top of your gallery as a premiere piece. So you would look at the cost of the painting in cubes and see which one you want to go for first and which one your opponent might go for. And after you've placed your apprentices, both players resolve all effects. You take them back. The last card furthest away from the bazaar, so in this case, card 1 would go away. The rest would slide down to refill it. And then you would take a bazaar card from the deck, flip it over, replace the number 5 card with that, and suddenly you've got a card that has 2 different effects to visit based on what stalls are visible. So it's a pretty simple worker placement game at the start. However, once all 5 of those starting cards are gone, suddenly there's 10 options on the board. You can only visit 2 of them on your turns. And then when you go, you have to pick which one you're using. So for example, there might be one that's like gain a blue or gain 2 red, or spend a blue and gain 2 yellows and a red, or gain 1 yellow.
Oh boy, so lots of options. So for somebody like me, I'm told I suffer from analysis paralysis. Would more people hate me after playing this game with them then?
I don't think so, actually, since the analysis paralysis really will only kick in once that new card comes out. You can actually plan your move a little bit ahead until your opponent gets a painting. Then you really need to start paying attention to what abilities your opponent has, what ability you have. But that doesn't usually happen until about halfway through the game, that things get really hairy with painting abilities swapping out or abilities triggering based on your own actions. Generally, people have said that it's actually a really good game to stay engaged with because a lot of the painting premiere effects are reactions. They're done like when your opponent gains any red, you may gain a yellow. That kind of thing.
So if you're not paying attention, then you miss out, I guess?
Right. So I've actually played this at one of my old jobs where I was doing after school technology education, and I was playing with some of the students there, and one of the most hyperactive 8-year-olds I have ever met loved this game. She sat down and was like so engaged, which is a reaction I've gotten from a lot of people at PAX East this past year, um, back in Boston. Jerry Hulkins, who is the creator of Penny Arcade, he's the writer, who goes by Tycho. He actually came by my booth, played around, and he was so engrossed in it. Every time I tried to explain it to him, saying, he was like, "Oh man, no, 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 I totally get it." And it was just the most validating experience, honestly, because I realized that this really was scratching an itch for people.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Cool beans. So let's see. You talked about abilities and whatnot. So does everybody get a specific ability or whatnot at the start of the game, or how's that work?
So actually, you start out with no abilities. It's all entirely based on the paintings that you're painting. Um, the first to six paintings wins, but the most recent painting you acquire by spending pigment cubes and an action will give you something. Whether that's place an apprentice here to gain a red and a yellow pigment, or uh, maybe it's something like Titian's Men with a Quilted Sleeve, which would be um, paintings cost one blue cube less to paint as long as this is your active painting. Or maybe it's even something that reacts to your opponent gaining two or more cubes at once with one apprentice, and then you can gain a yellow from the supply. Stuff like that. And since you only have one active at a time, they don't cascade out of control, even in a three-player game.
You said there's paintings out in the first of the game. There's a bunch of paintings out. Now, are we all trying to like? Do you know which one everybody's going for,
Nope.
or is it more like Splendor?
It's much closer to Splendor. That's actually a very apt game to compare it to. Sp- I describe this game as a cross between Lords of Waterdeep meets Splendor in half the time of Splendor.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've never played Lords of Waterdeep. I know some podcasters and stuff I've listened to that really like it. What is it? I think it's Swords and Boards and Swords. He talks a lot about it. And then I really like Splendor. Me and the kids like to sit down and play that, and my wife as well. But yeah, that sounds really cool. So you don't know what picture they're going for unless you kind of pay attention. But they might have different. They might all have similar cubes, so it's kind of hard to tell who's going to go for what.
Exactly. So some of the paintings have like the aforementioned Titian Man with a Quilted Sleeve is a very blue painting, so it requires four blue cubes. However, like the Clown with a Lute, which is mostly reds, oranges, and yellows, that requires two red, two yellow. And that has an ability where you can get a red and a yellow by placing one of your apprentices there instead of in the bazaar.
In the video, I just glanced over for a minute, but is there going to be real art, like looking at the page, is there going to be art of those paintings or whatnot?
Oh, yeah. Yes, there is. And that's part of where the funding is going for this Kickstarter, is getting very high resolution images to use on the cards.
If somebody were to take a chance on this on Kickstarter or whatnot, when would they? I know you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but when should they anticipate getting their games? It looks like you wrap up around the 23rd of November. Is that right?
Yeah, we wrap up the day before Thanksgiving, and then my goal is to have it in people's hands around PAX East of 2018. Just bring it full circle.
So when abouts is that? When's PAX East?
So that's early April.
Okay, cool. So not too bad.
Not too bad at all. And if they're really impatient to get the game, I do have an $80 speed painting level where you can actually get a prototype copy of the game shipped to you, in addition to getting your factory copy in April. And this prototype copy would be in your hands by December.
Oh wow, yeah, and I don't know if I've heard of that. Are a lot of people taking that option?
There's a few. I think we're around like six or seven people have done that, but I'm always willing to make more of these prototypes.
Cool, cool beans. Yeah, I see that seven. It looks like you got seven of them. That's awesome. Cool. So per se, somebody fell asleep during the podcast, then they don't want to. They wake up so they don't hit the car. It wouldn't be because of you or your gamer, especially. It wouldn't be because of that cheesy accent. They're probably getting tired of my podcast or whatnot. But they're awake now and they're listening. Why should they take a chance on Pigment, especially with all the other great games they have on Kickstarter?
Oh man, why take a chance on Pigment? So this game has already proved itself to be successful at PAX East. People loved it. People were messaging me on Facebook being like, hey, have you tried this? Or hey, I was trying this and this worked really well. People really liked it at PAX. They bought all of them that I had brought with me, which is pretty impressive considering that the booth I was selling at was actually in the video game section, not in the tabletop section. So people sought us out because of this game. Um, if it's good enough for Jerry Hulkins, it's good enough for you. Um, but also, I think it's a really good gateway game. It lets people who aren't really into games, but who really like the art, to really get into that feel of how to play a worker placement game without it being a super long or super dreary experience.
Cool beans. Yeah, that's awesome. So, yeah, and we'll make sure we leave everything in the show notes or whatnot so they can just click it as opposed to having to type it in. Sometimes people are a little bit lazy, but this way they can just click it and go ahead and back it. So do you have any good notable reviewers reviewing it or any podcast you might be on or anything?
Yeah, so we recently did reviews, well, previews and reviews with Cloak and Meeple. We talked with Unfiltered Gamer, who also recommended it. Jerry, of course, has been very responsive on Twitter, and I sent him an early release copy just to play with during the Kickstarter. I've also shown this game to a few actual painters. So, like, one of my good friends is Rick Berry, who is an oil painter in Arlington, Massachusetts, and he loved this idea for a game. Even though he's not a gamer himself, his family is very into games, and he's an amazing oil painter. He loved that I was doing something based on Renaissance art.
Now I want to say, it's probably a lot different, but didn't Cool Mini or not? Didn't they talk about coming out with a painting game or
You know,
something?
there have been other painting games. I actually recently was on a podcast where the head of Fairway 3 Games was there, and he's the designer of a game called Starving Artists. And while there are similarities between like Starving Artists, Pastiche, and Pigment, I think Pigment stands well on its own because it is so fast, it is so portable, and it's so approachable. There aren't a lot of side mechanics. It's all very much a race to get six paintings first, and everything just aids you in that quest, as it were. So, yeah, in 15 to 20 minutes, fits in your pocket. If we get the canvas bag as a stretch goal at $10,000, we actually will be able to introduce player solo play rules where basically you're playing against an AI controlled opponent by having the supply live inside the canvas bag rather than out in the open. And every round, the opponent is going to land on a different painting and get three cubes. If they can paint, they immediately do, and you're trying to reach six paintings before the AI does.
Oh, cool beans. And let's see here. It looks like you have what is this? A social stretch goal? Have you guys reached that or whatnot?
Yes. Yeah, we're working on that. Basically, if we reach 300 Facebook likes on Copperfrog Games LLC's Facebook page, which is, of course, facebook.com/copperfroggames, then we will be able to add playmats featuring the cover art from Pigment onto the Kickstarter so you can pledge a little bit and get one of those.
Oh, okay, that'd be cool. Yeah, that looks really cool. The cover art and so come with the playmat. Yeah, my wife for some reason she really likes the playmat, so that's cool.
Yeah. And Emily Hancock is our artist. She did an amazing job with that cover. Um, the inspiration, I'm not gonna lie, actually came from a Magic the Gathering card called Bazaar of Baghdad. That was the card that was in my mind when I pictured red, yellow, blue powders gathering, and that's kind of where Pigment evolved from, was the colors themselves.
Cool, cool. Yeah, that's good that it has the inspiration. I'm not sure how Richard from We're Not Wizards will feel about that. He's not too into magic, but that's really cool that you got inspiration from that. That's great.
Yeah, it's a beautiful card. It's a very old card actually, and it's worth a lot of money apparently. But I'm not actually a Magic player. A bunch of my friends,
Oh, there you go. That redeems you with We're Not Wizards, so that's good.
yeah. Well, like I know how to play. It's important to know what the best-selling game basically of all time is. Like Magic is very popular for a reason. It's a very well designed, very well thought out, very well executed game. But it's not my thing personally. I prefer more standalone type games.
Well, there you go. Yeah, my wife is very against the collectible card game because she's got to like Pokemon. She's got to get them all, and so that would frustrate her.
So it's actually funny. I recently got back into the Pokemon trading card game. I had played back when it first released in America like 15 years ago or so. And recently I got back into it. My friend Jason and I recently just opened up 36 packs because Mass had a good deal.
Well, there you go. Would you get anything good?
We did actually, but it's really been cool just building these strategies out with a whole new set of Pokemon, a whole new set of mechanics. A lot of these things did not exist when I last stopped playing 15 years ago.
So do you have your old cards then? Can you add those into?
Oh yeah, I do, but they're very weak in comparison. Power creep is definitely a thing that occurred over the past 10 years.
So minus coming there to Massachusetts to stalk you in person, how would people go about finding out about you or your games?
So we are going to be at a couple of conventions coming up, and I'm working with a few game stores to demo the game both in Massachusetts and in like New Hampshire and that area, New England in general. But we are going to be at PAX Unplugged at booth 859, which is towards the back of the expo hall. Copperfroggames will be there. We'll be with our friends at Zephyr Workshop, who did the game Aegis, combining robot strategy game, which successfully kickstarted earlier this year. So that's in Philadelphia in a few weeks. I'm also going to be going down to Metatopia, which is a playtesting convention in Morristown, New Jersey, and we'll be demoing some new games that I'm working on, and I'll of course have Pigment with me.
Cool beans. And what game stores will you be working with so we can give them a shout out?
So I'm currently talking with Night Moves Cafe. They're a board game cafe in the area. There's Eureka Board and Card Games. Oh, Games and Puzzles, sorry. Eureka, they're in Brookline. There's the Toy Soldier up in Amesbury that I'm talking with and hoping to get up there. I'd love to go over to Toys and Things in Danvers. Pandemonium Books and Games in Central Square. They'll also be at PAX Unplugged, which is kind of cool. Furthest convention they've ever driven to. So I'm excited for this.
Cool, yeah, and it's like I said, it's doing pretty good, especially being a first-time creator. And yeah, the 25 days to go, and you said what you said you had 70 or some odd percent. Like I said, math is a little bit late for me.
Yeah, we're at like $5,600, so that's pretty good.
Plus nine, you got to add that extra nine, and maybe that helps.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool beans, cool beans. So, I don't know if you've listened to any of our podcasts, but the next section is called Adventures in Application Acquisition, where we talk about an application, be it cell phone or tablet or computer or even video games. Is there an application you use a lot of? It doesn't have to be related to board games or anything like that.
So there's two apps that I'm currently using a lot. One's mobile and one is mobile and PC and web. The first one, the most important one that will probably be applicable to people, is called Discord, Discord. It's a web-based chat program that I'm currently using. Reasons. I use it to communicate with the old game dev club at my school, Northeastern University, where I was a member of the executive board on the game dev club. I follow along with a few different people in terms of game development. They have public Discord channels for like Aegis, for example. They have a Discord channel where they can do like looking for a group announcements for their print and play version. I use it to run a Mutants and Masterminds inspired Fate game. So I teach my players how to do superhero stuff over voice and text, and it's great. It's available on mobile, it's available on web. All you need is an account and you can log in from anywhere.
Is it cut a cost?
It's free.
So how's that differ from Facebook then?
So the nice thing about Discord is that it's got group voice, video, and text chat. You break it up into channels similar to Slack, but I really like the setup for Discord. It's also designed to work well with streaming for like games. It originally started out as a team chat for games program. It's like World of Warcraft players, etc.
Okay. Cool. So if you own the rights to that application, what would be one thing you would do to make it better, Michael?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would make setting permissions a little bit easier. You have full control over permissions for people in channels that you control. And you can like say, oh, this person cannot delete something, or this person cannot share a link, or this class of people cannot do X, Y, or Z. But I would really like it if they made some presets for like, hey, these are followers. Hey, this is a owner. Hey, this is someone who's like an editor, so they can do certain things with other people's posts. And then it would automatically set the permissions to fit that role.
Okay, cool. And is there a lot of other game designers and game companies using that?
Yeah, I think there are. I know Zephyr Workshop uses it. That's kind of who turned me onto it. I know a lot of computer game developers use it just for team communication and whatnot. You can integrate it with Trello. You can integrate it with calendars, Twitch, which is nice.
And you call it Discord?
Discord, Discord. And it's available at discordapp.com, I believe.
Cool. And I'll make sure I leave the links for the notes and whatnot. And you said there was another one you used. Is that similar, or what is that one?
It's completely different. It's actually earlier this year, the Pokemon Company International released a free-to-play game called Magikarp Jump, and I'm still playing it.
So it's not Pokemon, the one where you go and search for Pokemon, or something else?
No, it's actually a totally different style of game. It's basically an idle clicker, um, which is kind of embarrassing to say, but like it's really adorable. The fish puns are charming. The graphics are cute. There's a lot of content. You can actually, even with like paying money for like extra coins or extra diamonds or whatever, it still takes a really long time to get everything. It's a well-designed idle clicker in that it really captures the experience of being a Magikarp trainer, which is to say, you have the wimpiest thing imaginable. How can you make it fun?
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, like, it also is just well designed. The UI has improved tremendously since they released initially. It's fast, it's fun, it's clever. Even though it's not really doing anything except tapping food on a screen so that your Magikarp eats it,
Uh-huh.
it's a lot of fun. I like it a lot. I still play it.
Cool.
months later after everyone I know has uninstalled it.
Well, there you go. So, if there was one thing you could do to make that a better application, what would you do?
Um, More active mini games, because right now the only active part of the game really is eating food. Um, I would really like it if the training was more of a timing based activity, but I understand why it isn't. It's meant to just be able to be played one thumb. You can do whatever.
Oh boy, cool.
So I would like a slightly more in depth version of Magic Harp Jump. I'm probably not getting it because they stopped updating it.
If the producers are listening, hopefully, because we're trying to make green content here, if they're listening, hopefully they'll be able to do that sometime.
Hopefully, select button, I'm looking at you.
So yeah, we don't want to keep you all night, but we really appreciate you coming on, getting geeky with Game Relief, Michael. We really appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll make sure I get everything on the show notes. But yeah, thanks again, Michael.
Thank you so much. It really means a lot that you reached out, and I hope that everyone enjoys Pigment.
Cool. Will you be using Kickstarter again, do you think, for those?
Yeah, of course. And if people are interested, copperfroggames.com, you can sign up for our mailing list so that you're alerted when Turf Tag or Chiseled or anything else goes live.
Cool. And one last thing, for people like that might not have a bunch of money sitting in their Kickstarter account or in their back pocket or whatnot, might this come to if they don't get a chance or they listen to this after the campaign ends? Might they get a chance to get this in the retail stores? Do you think afterwards?
I think probably. I It's a really great way to get your game out, and until I start working with more publishers again, I'm going to be on my own. So we'll see what happens. Yes. That's my hope. I'm currently reaching out to a bunch of distributors, and I'm also working on getting it directly to retailers. There is a retailer level in the Kickstarter, so if you want games at wholesale cost and you have a brick and mortar location, talk to me and we'll work something out and I'll get you games to sell.
Cool. Cool beans. Yeah, and I'll make sure I leave that in the everything on the show notes so people can just click it and hopefully back it a lot sooner than they would be otherwise. But yeah, once again, thanks a lot, Michael. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It really means a lot.
Welcome to Kickstarter's Corner. Here joined by Barbarian Leaf and here joined by Game Relief.
Today we're going to talk about
Side effects, use drugs, and therapy to treat your
psych.
That doesn't make sense. It doesn't look like it says psych.
Well, that's what it says.
Got ch in it. In this beautifully illustrated card game for 2 to 8 players.
Yeah, 2 to 8 players.
Wait, where's the 2?
Right there, the 2 to 8 players. That dash means 2. That means you can go anywhere in between that number. So how long do they have left?
15 days to go. It looks like 15 hours.
Yeah, it's 15 days to go. And so they're funded. And then what else we got? We've got
random coping chess. Add an element of storytelling and reveal to chess, making it
accessible.
I said that, and you talked over me.
Go ahead, say it again then.
Accessible and
engaging
in new ways. What new ways? Tell us. 14 days to go. Will he beat him? Go back to forget. Side effect. Will random coping chess beat the world famous what was it called?
Side effects?
Yeah, side effects.
I guess we'll find out, but they're both overfunded and they both have about 2 weeks to go or so. And
no, they have more weeks to go.
Well, 14 days. How many days are in a week?
2 weeks and...
Yeah, 2 weeks. The other one has 2 weeks and a day. But
wait, 2 weeks and the other one has 2 weeks and 1 day.
And a day. And we will have an interview with the creators of Random Coping Chest pretty soon, coming up here, either in the next, probably tomorrow, but it'll be coming up pretty soon. Either that or, yeah, that one or another one will be coming up pretty soon. You'll get that one either tomorrow or next week, so just so you're aware of that. And then we've also got a couple more. What else do we got?
Cabinet game table from Carolina Game Tables. A high quality, solidly built cabinet to hold your games. It's a video game.
It holds your games, look.
Yeah, games are video games. Video games are games.
You also have board games. I don't think they meant video games.
Yeah, they meant video games.
Well, it can hold those as well. It holds more video games.
They just said video game. Just say that. Hold your video games with a reversible. That was it. Table for gaming, dining, crafts, and more for video games.
Except there's no place for your TV, so you can also put your board games on here.
So you can throw the TV at it and see if it works.
Yeah, I guess you could try that, but that's not what it's designed for. They've got 6 days to go. If you want one of these, you better hurry and get on.
Oh, it's not a week. It's 6 days, so it's gonna win.
Yeah, so you better. Yeah,
it cheated.
It didn't cheat. It just started before. But hopefully they fund. Go ahead and check them out at CarolinaGameTables.com, I believe. And then...
Oh, Historical Conquest 2.0. An epic card game to build a civilization and defeat it.
Defend it.
Defend it. I didn't meant to do it. I don't like defending. I like attacking. Attack it. So, just let's say attack it. Attack it, use people of the past to domination. The world will bring world peace to you decide.
Yeah, so you could decide.
Or die.
So you could decide to either dominate, take it over, or have world peace. But you like the war aspect, huh?
Yeah, so I'll bring it domination.
Yeah, so check this one out by Zach Edwards. And actually, I know they're going to relaunch from what I've heard. And so if you go ahead and back it, because they're not anywhere near their goal, unless you have another 40-some-odd thousand or that gets backed on there. If not, just back it for $1 and nothing will be charged to your card. It ends in 6 days and nothing will be charged to your card. And when they update, you'll be able to find out when they relaunch. So that's good. What else do we got?
The Conversion, a comic-themed card game. A super powerful comic-themed battle card game about choosing a team, an object, to protect the city you love or hate. I hate it.
Well, yeah, and they've got about $10,000 to go. Hopefully they'll make it. How many days do they got?
9 days, and they got $9,065, and they need $19,500.
Yeah, so they better get on it. So hopefully back that one.
Oh, look at that guy.
Yeah.
You look crazy, bro.
They got some crazy cartoons. It's a comic theme, so that's really cool. Check them out on the Kickstarters. Now go ahead and sign us off, please.
No.
Well, I'll sign us off.
No, please. We gotta talk about other things.
What else can you tell us about?
More games.
Like what?
Like your game you're gonna make.
I hope. I don't know. They'll make a game for a while. But this has been Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf.
And we'll never sign off until I say.
And we're going to leave you at that. Have a great...
Hey, no.
Have a great day.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.